Hi there. Just a video the BBC's 100 commentary. Um, I found it interesting that of late there's been a lot of articles in papers and cricket magazines that are starting to criticise the 100, whereas before they were synthetically propping it up. And this is just an observation really about the commentary on the BBC. Now, just to declare an interest, I hate the 100 and I hope it folds. So I'm not here to give it any tips. But if I were an Indian owner or an American owner who just bought a stake in the 100 franchise, and I turned on the television and saw the BBC's coverage, I would be really angry. And I'm just going to go through the reasons why. And the reasons why, if you're a supporter of the 100, you should be angry about the BBC's coverage. If you don't like it, it's quite funny because it kind of it confirms your kind of prejudices about the 100. But if you want it to succeed, then there needs to be some pressure exerted on the BBC about how they kind of present it going forward. So, if you were to look at the BBC coverage, you would think that the 100 was not our equivalent of the IPL or the Big Bash, um, but a children's sport. So something to go on children's television, at about 3 o'clock, um, and that it wasn't an actual proper tournament. Now, those owners from Indian, predominantly from the Indian Premier League, but also American businessmen, including people like Tom Brady, who's a serious figure. They've bought stakes in this because they actually think it's the English equivalent to the IPL, and the commentary you get on the BBC doesn't suggest that at all, um, and suggests a children's TV program. So, just to be clear to people, I've heard a lot of people defending it and saying the hundreds for kids. It isn't actually for kids. They want kids to watch it, but it's not a specific kids program like Hannah Montana or Tracy Beaker. It is not a specific kids program. But because of the BBC coverage, those people assume that it is. It's actually meant to be our version of the IPL. Now, we had the first ever T20 league, the T20 Blast, but once franchise leagues came into existence, it looked a bit outdated and a bit staid. Uh, and rather than kind of those that league kind of adapting, um, it didn't, and it was just stagnant. And then we invented the bloody 100. But when we invented that, it was meant to be like an elite franchise league. It was not meant to be a kids' TV program, and for that reason, it's incumbent upon the BBC to present it as such, and not to present it in such an idiotic way. I would say it isn't even presented like a kids program, more um, a program for remedial kids. I don't know if any of you remember. I mean, there used to be. I'm thinking back to secondary school, and there'd be like a special teacher that would come in and sit next to someone who couldn't quite catch up, or couldn't keep up to speed with the lesson, and that teacher would kind of help one on one with that person. Um, and it seems like the 100 is aimed at that type of kid, not just a normal kid who um, is kind of able to understand things. And I think that maybe they've gone too far with that. And some of the commentators, people like Michael Vaughan or Isha Guha, um, are quite capable of presenting a proper cricket show. But maybe, I don't know if they're told or that um, they feel obliged to act in this way. And some of them, that I won't mention names, that is just their level. Their level is just interviewing kids on a kind of boundary. That's the kind of their kind of level. So it's a mixture of the two. But really, there should be a move now to make the commentary like the IPL commentary, um, so where it's cricket orientated rather than just trying to smuggle cricket in. And I think that will. I mean, if you look at the viewership, it's dropped 20%. It will continue to drop with this commentary. Now, not all the games are on the BBC, so if you look at Sky's coverage, it is better, and it is more cricket orientated than the BBC's one. It's interesting that it's been the case for about 4 years or so, and that the BBC haven't adapted, haven't kind of realised that um, Sky's coverage is better, and just have just kind of carried on regardless with this kind of kids TV approach. That they are doing the tournament a disservice. Now, for people like me who don't like the tournament, that's quite funny, but for people who've invested money into it, it must be annoying. And I think um, a lot of those kind of business people will feel a bit shortchanged. So I think the way forward is for I think those kind of franchise owners to have a meeting with the BBC and to tell them to kind of address those issues and show a more professional side. Because look, if you can't take yourself seriously, then how do you expect anyone else to take you seriously? And if they're not really talking about cricket and they're presenting like a kids' TV show um, in kind of lieu of cricket, then no one's going to watch it as a proper competition, are they? The adults who turn on, like a casual fan, will say, "Oh, that's kids tournament," and they'll turn over again. So you know they've got to watch for that, and but really, I think once once they do that, and once they kind of amend their approach, they might find that the audiences pick up a bit more. Um, but they do really need to address that. I'd just say one other point: if it continues on this kind of downward trajectory, the only option for these owners might be just to make the 100 a women's only tournament. It can be the only women's only. It's not a T20 league, but something close to a T20 league in the world, and and that can kind of save it really. And the hope that's certainly in Western countries, even if the standards are terrible, the fact that it's a women's only, the only women's only T20 league or something close to a T20 league, will give it that kind of kudos, and people will just watch it, just so they're not called sexist. So that might be their best hope. Otherwise, you know, it's a kind of grim prospect at the moment. Alternatively, they could just actually, as a lot of those franchises are Indian, play some of those games in India with Indian commentary, which is a bit more serious and a bit more cricket focused. But you know, we'll see. That's something for the future. But I mean, just in summary, uh, the BBC just have to move away from this children's TV approach because it's not working. It's treating the audience as idiots, and it's making their commentators come across in a kind of kind of imbecilic way, and that they can do much better.